Well, hi everybody. How you doing? For those that don't know me, my name is Dan Jensen. Everybody calls me Danno. I am the candidate chapter director for the fraternity, and I am the oldest presenter here, which is why Jim asked me to do a presentation on life in the workforce, um, specifically those mistakes that we've made or we've seen others make, and how you can learn from them. Uh, I do not have a ton of slides, so please feel free to interrupt, ask questions, ask to share or present. Um, tell your own horror stories from internships or co-ops or jobs or whatever. So with that, I will share my presentation. Allow that. All right. 10 things I wish I knew when I joined the workforce. My standard disclaimer, this is all my experience, not necessarily from the fraternities. There's a bit of advice in here. So don't blame Jim or Stu or anybody if you get bad advice. If you like the advice you get, send the executive council a note. Tell them how great a job I'm doing. If you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm got my head on backwards, email me directly. Let's talk about it. So, the work world is different than the world that you're used to. If you've been in college, this is, the work is, you're dealing with different people. You're dealing with different tasks. You're dealing with different expectations. You're not being tested on your knowledge anymore. You're not expected to know everything. But the expectation is that you act like an adult. You're going to have to be dealing with people significantly older than you. You get into the workforce at 23 and people generally retire around 65. So you can be dealing with people, 2-3 generations ahead of you. And okay, boomer is not an acceptable thing to say at work. So, that's something to keep in mind. Most colleges don't offer a class in this. And if they do, let me know, because good on them. I'd love to see it. I have done a lot. I've been an interviewer. I've been an interviewee. I've been the bottom of the totem pole. I've had direct reports. Not everything here is mistakes I've made. Some of them are mistakes I've seen other people make. But let's learn from these mistakes. Good decisions come from experience, and experience comes from bad decisions. So they don't have to be your bad decisions. So let's jump in. 10 things I wish I knew when I joined the workforce. Item 1, appearances aren't everything, but they're not nothing either. Hygiene, like washing yourself, having a clean haircut, or if you are of the type to grow facial hair, groomed, clean, appropriate, clean clothing. These are basic expectations. I have seen people show up in the wrong clothes for interviews. I have seen people show up smelly for interviews. Those people did not get second interviews. They had lost the job as soon as they walked in the door. There are a lot of cliches around what you wear. Cliches are not always true, but they are what they are for a reason. Clothes make the man or woman, or whatever noun you prefer. Dressing up can make you act a little more professional, can make you sit up a little bit straighter. Wearing a suit can give you that sort of attitude. So use that. If you are having a presentation and you need to be a voice of authority, dress the part, and it will help. It's not nothing. Um, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have. If you want to be a manager, and all the managers wear a shirt and tie to work every day, and all the employees just wear a work shirt, give the impression that you're already halfway there. Like I said, wearing a tie isn't going to get you the job, but it's going to put you in a different light in some people's heads. Like, oh, this is a person who is, a little more responsible than their coworkers. Maybe, when it comes to promotion time, we should consider this person. Don't judge a book by its cover. So, like, this is sort of the opposite of the point of the slide. You don't know what a person has going on just by looking at them, but as that person, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And if somebody looks at you and thinks you look unprofessional, it's real hard to dial that back, real hard to get that impression back from them. Not seeing any chats or anything, so I'm just going to move on. Item 2, get a reputation for busting your butt, even if you don't always. Reputation means a lot. When you get out of college and into the workforce, especially if you have been interviewing for a while, you're probably going to be pretty hungry, pretty energized, ready to go at your new job, young and full of energy. Use that. Tap into that. You can always ask for work to do. You won't always know the answer, but you can always try. You can't teach hustle. If you've got two people and one really wants to be there and wants to do work and do good work, and the other one does not, that's bosses notice this sort of thing. If you don't have anything to do, ask for something to do. If you get something done, report in. Like, hey, I finished that project that you gave me. What else needs doing? Depending on your work culture, and I will circle back around to this, maybe send that, email half an hour after you finished for the day. Even if maybe you didn't, finish your work half an hour after you were supposed to be done for the day. And then if somebody is happy with your work, if somebody says, gee, thanks, you really did a good job with that. My go-to line is always, hey, tell my boss. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. It's always good to say thank you to a compliment. Also tell my boss, because I want them to know that I'm doing good things that they're not necessarily seeing. So you bust your butt, you get this reputation, and you make sure that your boss knows that you're working hard and doing the best you can and learning and meeting deadlines and all that sort of thing. That impression will come around when it's time for performance reviews. I get a performance review twice a year, and part of that is my adherence to deadlines. And when I can say, every deadline you've given me, I've made, whenever it's been in my control, I have made the deadline. There sometimes things happen that are out of your control, nothing you can do. But if it's on my desk, it's getting done. Also, if you get this reputation for being a hard-charging go-getter type, listen, we all have a bad day, sometimes a bad week, occasionally a bad month. Sometimes, you can't be 100% all the time. There have been countless memes, and even before that, jokes about, I give 100% at work every week, and it's like 15% on Friday, 25% on Tuesday, that sort of thing. If you have a reputation for being somebody who is always busy, always working, then if you need to take some time to just, gear down for half a day, a couple days, that reputation can carry you. You don't want to use it too often because then your reputation will change, and that's not great. But it will save you if you've got somebody above you who thinks, oh yeah, that person always works. They're really doing work. So reporting in your successes, great, love it. Doing it after hours can give the impression that you are working extra hard, but it can also set an expectation that you are willing to work past your time without being told to or asked to. And that can negatively impact your work-life balance down the road. So be careful. This is very much a read the room, know your corporate culture type thing. If you want to set boundaries and say, I work from 8:30 to 5, and from anything 8:29 and before is my time, and anything 5 and later is my time. If I'm your supervisor, as long as you're getting the work done, I don't care. But there are companies, there are organizations where there is an unwritten expectation to work late. Just be careful on that one. Still nothing, so I will keep on rolling. Your boss wants you to succeed. This isn't college. You're not being tested. There are no weeder courses in the workforce. You are there to achieve a mission, to serve a customer, to make a buck. You're not there to prove that you deserve to be there. If you succeed, that means your boss has done well in coaching you and developing you and managing your workload. And if you are an efficient worker that produces good products, then your company makes more money, or, your agency gets more done, or, whatever their bottom line is. If you're doing well, they're doing well. Don't be afraid to ask for help. The better you do, the better they look. And if they can give you a nudge in the right direction and you can go and take care of something, then you're doing things more efficiently. You are getting jobs done better. And there's benefits all around. Don't be afraid to say you don't know something or you need help with something. When you are the new guy or gal in the workforce, you are the low person on the totem pole. Well, I don't think we're supposed to say that anymore. You're at the bottom of the org chart, and bad stuff rolls downhill. So you are going to get things that you might not know how to do, you might not want to do. If you need resources, if you need a tool or some help or just guidance, that's what your manager's there for. Don't be afraid to hit them up, because as a supervisor, I would rather an employee come to me, a day or two into a project and ask for direction than to work on the wrong thing for 3 weeks. And then I come back and say, what are we doing here? Like, where did you get this impression that we were supposed to do this? Because then you've wasted 3 weeks of your time. And, and now I'm behind on my deliverable schedule as your supervisor. So sometimes it gets referred to as delegating up. Don't be afraid to do it. You have a job that's to produce the widgets, to do the drawings, to whatever. Your boss's job should be to enable you to do this, to give you the tools and the information, and then keep the stuff out of your way that you don't want in your way. Cool. Hearing no further comments, don't neglect your professional development. You got your degree. Good job. You learned a lot. You are not done. Throughout your career, you will have the opportunity to learn more. And that's a thing that you want to do. You can use, new knowledge to make better products, to be more efficient, to move up the career ladder. If you want to be a manager, if get comfortable with presenting things. These things are going to help you throughout your career. If you are better able to present information than your coworkers, then you are more likely to be put out in front of a client to present. Again, you do a good job, they look good, you look good, everybody wins. So yeah, don't be afraid of going back to school. If you can get a master's, courtesy of your employer, awesome, go for it. Strong recommend. Professional certifications. I live in the IT world, in the government world, so we've got any number of certifications. Anything relevant to your work, your coursework, or a project that you're on. If you're working in a specialized field and can get a 3-day course to bring you up to speed, that could save you 3 weeks down the road, in doing research or learning about the field that you're supposed to be working in. So any questions, comments, anything on that? Anything we've heard so far? The chat room is empty, so I will keep rolling. Okay. Item 5, better to ask permission than forgiveness. Your job is not a game. People are serious at work because there's stuff on the line. There's money, there's jobs, there are real life consequences to screwing up. And if you run into a situation where your goals are being inhibited by a rule or a norm or something like that, get permission first. Get your boss involved, get legal involved, get the ethics office, if you have one, involved, depending on the nature of the conflict. And make sure you get it in writing. Get your boss to say something like, I understand that this is a problem. I want you to go ahead and do this thing. We've had this discussion. Or if they won't, if they give you direction on the phone, you send them an email saying, thanks for the call. I appreciate your guidance. I understand that I am to go ahead with this action, despite this other written direction that says to do the opposite. Get yourself some cover in writing, because you don't want to be the one left holding the bag if something goes wrong. And it's not a get out of jail free card, but it will certainly give you a better leg to stand on. If you want to say, listen, I did this in good faith. I checked with my boss. I thought it was, I was not sure. I asked for guidance. I was reassured that it was fine. Like I said, not a get out of jail free card, but you don't want to be the one who went off on their own. Company policies exist for a reason. Somebody got sued. Something bad happened, and they said, "Oh boy, this is bad. We should keep our employees from doing this in the future." And you may not know the story behind all those, and that's fine. You don't need to know the story behind every rule, but be aware that those rules generally do exist for a reason. And violating them can have unforeseen consequences. But the real problem here is your reputation as a professional. You don't want to be that guy who screwed this up, or that girl who dropped the ball on this, or whatever. Your college life is sort of isolated. Your employers are not calling your professors or your RAs for references. They won't say, I don't put them on my resume. No, none of my employers are calling back to my RA and saying, hey, how was Danno in, East Quad in 19, back in the 20th century. So you've got that isolation there. But if you are reckless, if you are careless, if you do things that you have been told not to do, and then somebody calls your boss and says, hey, how is this person at work? And they will say, I can confirm that they worked here from this date to this date. And that is code for, I have nothing nice to say about this person. So be aware that your mistakes will follow you a lot more now. So be prepared, which is sort of why we're doing this. Nothing in chat. Moving on. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, you are training to be engineers or already engineers. Safety is paramount. Do not cut corners on safety. You don't want to be the engineer who let the jet fly when it was unsafe. You don't want to be the guy who signed off on that. That we'll talk about professional liability insurance separately if you want to get into that. But yeah, lives can be at stake depending on what you work on. Okay, this is one. This is one that I think a lot of people need to hear. Email is for covering your backside, and the phone is for getting things done. Now, I touched on this earlier, but when you start your first job at age 23-ish, everybody there is going to be older than you, and you're going to have to deal with people in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. And different people respond to different modes of communication differently. There is, it should be the same, right? Like, you should be able to send an email to somebody and have them deal with it like they would deal with a phone call, like they would deal with an IM, like they would deal with you popping your head into their office. It doesn't always work that way. If you are, especially if you're in a time crunch, but just in general, to communicate an idea, talk to somebody. This can be face-to-face. This can be over the phone. IMs are sort of in this category. Anything where you can have a conversation and get information across quickly and get a dialogue going. It's easier to resolve an understanding if somebody can ask a question in real time and get an answer in real time before they have the chance to get an idea wrong in their head. Like, oh, when you said this, I automatically assumed that this, and then everything I did after that was, based on this assumption. Whereas if we're having a conversation, you can say, now, hold on, Danno, I don't understand. You want me to do this and then this? And like, no. These both have to happen at the same time because this relies on that and that relies on the other thing. Okay, got it. Good to go. Email is very useful for proving things, putting a time and a date on a communication. On February 1st at 2:15, I asked this guy to do the thing. He still has not done the thing. I've been sitting around waiting for a week and a half for him to do the thing. I cannot do my job until he does his job. But, you know, and if that's what you're going for, then that's what you're going for, right? And also you get to you get to be more careful with your language. So if you have a particularly touchy subject, you can write out a draft. You can send it to a coworker or a boss or whatever. Say, hey, does this sound snarky or snotty? Or, can I check my tone here? Because that's a big deal in written communication. You can pick your words carefully. You can get other people to look at it. And then you have this record that this happened. If you're trying to prove that someone is not being helpful, maybe you send an email. If you want their help, and then you talk to them face to face. There's a time for this. There's a time for that. Sometimes you get results through the email. Sometimes using a phone doesn't get results. Excuse me. But in general, I have found these things to be true. You can get different results based on approaching people in different ways. It's weird. It just seems to work that way. Okay, what's next? Yes. Emails are forever, and social media can come around and bite you in the backside. This sort of dovetails off the last one about picking your words carefully in an email. We get frustrated at work sometimes. We're not always working with our best buddies. We're not always having a good time. And that's okay. It's called work for a reason. If it were fun, if it were easy, they wouldn't have to pay us to do it, right? But sometimes you can get angry and you can say something a little snide, or you can say something that you meant perfectly innocently, and it comes off as you're being a jerk. And this one's happened to me pretty bad. Your email is a written record, and that person who you send the angry email to will see it today, and then they can refer to it next week and next month and send it to their boss and send it to their boss's boss, and you look unprofessional when you treat people this way. If you have to yell at somebody, I don't recommend it, right? Try and keep your cool, ideally. This is not always possible. And I've been yelled at in person, and it was not without consequence. And I've been, people have been a jerk to me over email. But one was a he said scenario, and the other one was, look at what this person put in writing and sent to me. There were consequences both ways, but when the guy came over and yelled at me face to face, it was the consequences were less long lasting. Let's put it that way. On the flip side, not you want to be good with everybody you work with. That is not necessarily your friend. You would not talk to your boss the way that you talk to your fraternity brother or your roommate or your sibling. You can be there's friendly, there's collegial, hey, how was your weekend? There's professional, good morning, sir, good afternoon, ma'am. Um, and there are varying degrees of these tones. Um, and some people take it the wrong way if you're being too friendly. I was too friendly with someone who was 11, 12, 13, 15, four pay grades above me in my first job. And I'm pretty sure he hated me every day we worked together after that because I treated him like a friend and he did not want to be treated that way. Oh, well, live and learn. Corollary to this is posting stupid things on your personal social media off hours can still get you fired. Let me see if I can pop over to, what? I'm just going to give you the URL. No, go back. Not done with that yet. I'm going to give you a URL for the story that Jim gave me, because this is a case study in be careful what you put on the internet, because the real world has consequences. You can sort of pick up the idea from the link. The headline says it all. Boeing canned 65 people for saying dumb stuff on their social media. So just because you're off the clock, just because you're not in the office, doesn't mean what you say doesn't have consequences. Unless you work for the government, your First Amendment rights do not extend to your employer. And even if you do, I think they can still fire you for being an idiot. I don't know. I'd have to look into that one. If you want to talk about working for the federal government, hit me offline, because most of my career has been spent there. So be careful with what you say, what you do. How long do we have in this session? I don't have the schedule in front of me, and I don't know if I need to rush through the last couple slides. Okay, I'm going to blast through these because Xander told me I ought to. Your paycheck isn't everything. We work for money. It's not for fun. But there are other benefits to being at work. Your insurance, your 401k, gym access, all these things can factor into your compensation package. The culture of the workplace is very definitely something that you should match with. Be aware of how things work at this company, and how close you live to your employer is, it affects how much free time you have. And if you'd rather be sitting in a car than doing something fun, then, by all means, get a one-way commute for 1 hour plus. This is sort of along with, talk to people professionally. Don't burn a bridge. Do your best to be professional to people. Don't tell them what you think of them if you don't like them. It doesn't end well in most scenarios. That bad mood can follow you for years. And this one, be loyal to people, not to a company. People will do you favors. People will look out for you. Your company will generally not. Your company exists to make money. That is its sole purpose in being. And if it needs to disregard your best interest in order to do so, then don't be surprised if it does. Take care of your boss, take care of your coworkers, especially take care of your subordinates once you have them, and the company will take care of itself. Any questions, comments, thoughts, feelings, vibes? Nope. Nobody? Good vibes. Thank you, Xander. Appreciate that. Well, that's what I came with. If you guys want to talk, yeah, appreciate the reference. You guys want to talk about anything? I will be here. Danno at theta.org if you have particular questions, concerns. Have a great night.